Yes, we have Chase Hooper versus Viacheslav Borshchev. It's good to see the UFC hasn't been in St. Louis since 2018. So it's a nice little homecoming for them. Hopefully, it does well in terms of ticket sales and excitement and everything because they actually, thankfully, did a pretty good job with this fight card for coming back to St. Louis. So I will appreciate the effort they went into giving us a pretty decent card after the fucking shit houses we've had lately. So let's get right into it without further ado. Chase Hooper, Viacheslav Borshchev. Very interesting fight. Chase Hooper, I've said before in my coverage of him, he was a guy I've been following since the Contender Series. Really like him, had a lot of high hopes for him. And his most recent fight was against Jordan Levitt, in which he secured the submission win. We called that on this show, by the way. You're welcome. It was a pretty big fucking plus number line on the submission, and I think he was even the underdog on the money line. So once again, you're welcome if you listened to us. And if you didn't, well, you better get fucking smart, because if you're not going to be smart, then you better at least be strong if you're going to be that fucking dumb. But anyway, what I'm saying with this is, to get to the fucking point, I still don't have hope in Chase Hooper. I still see the same problems I've been seeing with Chase Hooper for a long time now, which is average to, I'm just going to be brutally honest, average to mediocre striking in terms of both offensive striking and defensive striking, world-class submission game, but no way to really initiate in a meaningful way that submission game if his opponent is not playing into it. He still isn't the world's best takedown artist. He still isn't the world's best in the clinch. He still just really has to rely on his opponent being willing to engage in that grappling battle with him. And as long as it's on the feet, that is where I believe by far Chase Hooper has the most room that he absolutely has to improve on. And once again, even though the Jordan Levitt fight is his most recent and it was a relatively grappling heavy affair and it ended early in round one, and there wasn't much of an opportunity to see that striking, until it's proven otherwise, I just have no reason to believe his striking, defense, or offense has improved. I'm going to still say and still think until I'm shown otherwise that it's the same that it's been, and it's disappointing. And that is not what you want to have as a weakness going into this fight against Borshchev. So the only thing that bothers me right now, going off the money lines as of recording right now, May 2nd, once again, like I said, we're a little early. This card's not even supposed to take place until the 11th. But as of time of recording, Chase Hooper's a plus 164, Borshchev's a minus 198. I can't really disagree with that, because Borshchev is a pretty decent striker. And if he's going to win, it's going to come by him using his striking to set up the finishes, like when he beat Dakota Bush by a liver shot in round one, like when he got his Contender Series contract by left hook in round two. I'm not impressed that he lost to Mark Diakese. I don't give a fuck that he was on LGBTQ plus fucking onomatopoeia magazine. He's a dog shit fighter, and that's all I'm fucking concerned with. Mike Davis, very disappointed he lost to Mike Davis by unanimous decision. Don't really give a fuck that he beat Mahashate Hayasar by a right hook to ground strikes in round two in his most recent fight, which is May of last year. So we're coming on about almost a year that he's taken off. Actually, excuse me. I got a little thrown off by Tapology graying out his Sadikov fight. His Sadikov fight, Borshchev and Sadikov, is his most recent, and that was November last year, and that was a majority draw. They colored that gray since it was a draw. It threw me off. Usually grays for canceled fights on Tapology, so my mistake. But anyway, what I'm getting at with this is the majority of Borshchev fights that he actually wins, he wins through using his striking and getting a KO TKO finish thus far in his very early career. That, once again, in analyzing MMA, I've said it time and time again, and if you've been listening to this show and reading the articles and following my analysis for a while, you will have heard this numerous fucking times, and you're going to continue to hear me say this. MMA is about amplifying your strengths and amplifying your opponent's weaknesses and finding an overlap there between what you're good at and what they're shitty at, and amplifying your strengths and amplifying their weaknesses in a way that you can take advantage of. And in this particular fight, Borshchev doesn't really even have to do anything out of the fucking ordinary other than what he already does, which is start the fight standing, get the striking exchanges going, And that's already, once again, as I've said, Chase Hooper's biggest weakness is his striking defense and his striking offense. And as long as Borshchev isn't stupid enough to engage in the grappling with him, and basically, since, Hooper's not really the best fucking takedown artist, as long as Borshchev's not the one shooting takedowns, and as long as Borshchev's not pushing the initiative, I mean, I kind of see a KO TKO for Borshchev. So I'd be really curious to see what the prop money on that would be like. So what are you thinking, Ben?
We're not going to have to spend too much longer on this fight, Bobby, because you fucking nailed it right on the head, dude. I have it exactly the same way. Chase Hooper, poor striking defense, and puts himself in bad positions and lacks that strength, where I think it's going to be a huge problem against Big B, as I'm going to call him, against Big B, because he stuffs takedowns and transitions straight to the ground and pound. So either he's going to get knocked out cold from his strike defense, or he is going to try to grapple, and he's not going to be able to. So I also see a knockout. He's a kickboxer too. So this dude, he's really good standing up and striking. I don't think Chase Hooper at plus 164, I'm kind of surprised this hasn't crawled up into the 200s yet.
Yeah, I think that's still a lot of people really buying into the hype of Hooper and the fact that he is coming off that sub win over Levitt, because of all things that didn't make fucking sense to me. That's the fight where he should have been the favorite and where he should have had a lot of momentum against Levitt, and he was the underdog, and that's how he capitalized and took advantage of the sub prop, because the sub prop was even astronomical compared to what it fucking should have been. And now you're telling me that this is, really close odds in a fight where he is very clearly outclassed in the striking department, his biggest and most glaring weakness. It's a bit fucky to me.
Better start listening to the Better in Green podcast. You will not regret it. Trust me, trust me, trust me. And hey, I'm Dean Blandino.
Welcome to Better in Green, eh? To Better in Green, eh? To Better in Green, eh? Listen in and cash out. That's what it's all about. Come on, let's make cash now. We always on spot and we cover old spot from the bottom to the top, hey. Shout out to Ethan, shout out to Wyatt, shout out to Ben. Welcome to our podcast, Better in Green.